Are you stressed about money? Do you worry about paying your bills? Sometimes even to the extent that you can't sleep at night? Or do you feel stuck in your job and you don't particularly enjoy it, but you feel like you have to go there? Then probably you haven't reached financial security yet. That's why in this video we're going to look at what financial security is and how you can reach it in 6 steps. Now, financial security means you have the resources for your financial needs in the present, and you also have the confidence to keep meeting them in the future. It's a financial stage where you have a certain level of protection against financial setbacks and also unexpected expenses. But it's also a mental stage that gives you this sense of stability, peace of mind, and then you can move forward without being financially stressed. Now, to arrive there, you need to check 6 boxes. And step number 1 is income. You need to have some cash flow coming in. And at the end of the day, the source of that income doesn't really matter, but its reliability does. So it needs to be a stable income. And I guess that most of you watching this will have a paid job. Then you can ask yourself how consistent it is. So do you have maybe only a contract for 1 or 2 years? Or do you have a permanent one? Or do you only do seasonal work? Then how likely is it that you will keep that income source over a long period of time? So over the next 10, 20 or 30 years. This will highly depend on your industry. So a job in tech or healthcare might be more reliable than, for example, a secretary doing writing stuff now in times of voice recognition and ChatGPT. And it might also be dependent on how replaceable you are. And the more skills you have, the more secure your job will be, or at least it will be easier for you to find a new one. And the third question is, how reliable is it? Is there maybe a high turnaround at where you work and people only stay for a couple of years? Where do they go afterwards? There is also income from other sources like your parents or your spouse. Feel free to skip to the next section if this doesn't apply to you. Now, when you live off your parents, I think there are 2 main scenarios. Number 1 is they have to keep working. And then it's not stable because they're older, something might happen. They probably also have to provide for themselves at the same time. And because it's another person that is not you, this alone adds a level of risk to it. Number 2 is if they are multimillionaires or even billionaires. Then it depends on your relationship to them. Maybe it's a good relationship, but not that great that you want to be financially dependent. Then you still do your own thing. It depends on your parents' expectations because they don't want to provide for you and they want you to earn your own money. And I also think it depends on your own relationship to work and to making money. Because I think most people wouldn't admit this or maybe don't even recognize it, but the motivator number 1 to go to work is for money. And that is also what society programs us for. I think it's even more than that. I think at some point, making money is a purpose on its own. And you can easily find out if that's true when you start asking people, what would you do if money was no object? And I bet that only very few would answer, no, of course, I would do exactly the same as I am now. And of course, when you have both, so that your job gives you purpose and it also makes you money, then that's a terrific place to be in. If, however, your family has built generational wealth and you find purpose in doing something that doesn't make you money, I think that's great too. Although in this case, you probably have to justify yourself a lot. Another form of income is when you live off your spouse. And I think here it's the same. Just because it's another person, it adds a level of risk. And especially when we're not talking about multi-millions or billions here, the one that stops working, which is oftentimes the woman, but also sometimes the man, risks having only very little money at old age, because then saving for retirement will not be the same as if the one had worked. And of course, there are very strong cultural differences here. In the end, everyone has to decide that for him or herself, but I think it's definitely worth to ask, what are the possible consequences? I personally have a very strong urgence for independence in general, so I could never imagine to live off of someone else's salary, except for my family during my education, but that is something that I want to be able to give back at some point. Step 2 is you can comfortably pay your bills. Now, the income you're making has to be high enough to cover all your bills. So at the very least, the necessary bills, and ideally not just the necessary bills, but also the comfortable ones. Now, in case you are not sure if you can cover your bills from your income, a way to find out could be to just track your income and your expenses for a couple of weeks to a couple of months, and then you can see if you still live below your means. I personally use a budget or an income and expense tracker, and I linked it for you down in the video description. And what you basically do is just type in the income and type in your expenses, and then it'll spit out a number that is either in the plus or in the minus. Now, to successfully check this box from step number 2 is that your monthly expenses should be covered without going into debt. And ideally, there's already something left after all the bills. If it's not, there's really only 2 ways to fix this. One is to cut cost, so to go through the different spending categories and see where you can cut back, or to increase your income. That can be by asking for a raise at your current job, by switching to a higher paying job, by taking on a second job, or starting a side hustle. And then we come to step number 3, and that is you don't have debt, or at least you're actively paying it back. And this especially includes credit card debt and other high interest debt. The only thing that I wouldn't include into this section is if you have a mortgage on your own house or on your own flat. That is because the mortgage is hopefully low interest rate, and also the house or the flat is of some value now and in the future. And as long as you keep paying your mortgage, your net worth will grow. Any other kind of debt like car loans or student loans, I would try to pay back ASAP. That is because having debt as an individual or a private person always has a level of risk, and risk is the opposite of security. Additionally, the object of a student loan, so you going to university, is now probably in the past because you got your degree, and psychologically and also financially, it's just a smart move to close this chapter as soon as possible. So then you can move forward to build wealth. And as for a car, your car loses value with every mile you drive it. And additionally, with the interest, you keep paying more than the original listing price. So a car is always a liability. It costs you money and it decreases in value. Even if you need it, because oftentimes there is no way around a car, but it's important to understand that it's not a financial asset. Now, I personally don't have a car anymore, but if I would buy one, I'd pay it outright and I'd probably get one that is between 1 and 3 years old. Anyway, no matter what kind of debt you have, there are basically 3 things to do, and that is to first assess how much it is, how many loans you have, if there are several, their balance and their interest rate, then to pay the minimum at each, and then put everything on top towards the loan with the highest interest rate. Now, this method is called the avalanche method. There are other methods, but I recommend this one. By the way, I created a checklist about all the different steps to financial security. If you're interested, there's a link down in the video description. Step number 4 is an emergency fund of 6 months. Now, an emergency fund is a pile of cash that covers unexpected expenses and also your costs if something happens. And it is this step that really will give you peace of mind because it gives you a choice. For example, if you're so stressed at work and you're not sure if you want to stay at that job, or you suddenly have to take care of a family member, the emergency fund gives you the security and also the freedom to just take some time off and take care of all that without having to worry about your living expenses. And that is also why I recommend 6 months instead of 3, because it just gives you enough time. I already went into detail about the emergency fund in another video, but in short, to calculate it, you take either your income or your monthly expenses times 6, and that is the amount that you keep at a safe place that you can at the same time access very fast if you need it. And you should probably also make a list of what unexpected means. So unemployment, someone or something that you need to take care of, or unforeseeable medical expenses. Step number 5 is that your basic insurances are covered. And by basic insurances, I mean the ones that secure your livelihood. Because there are scenarios that can bankrupt you. For example, you cannot go to work anymore and create an income for yourself. That is health and disability. Or something happens and the costs exceed your financial capacity by far. For example, medical bills or liability. This will depend on where you live, so maybe take some time to research if you need to take private action for those kinds of insurances. Maybe even consider asking an insurance advisor. And step number 6 is saving for retirement. Now, this is important not so much for now, but to build security also for your future self. So to prepare for the time when you cannot earn anymore. And the goal will be to be able to at least keep paying your necessary costs at an old age, or even better, to be able to hold up the lifestyle that you created for yourself. Now, also retirement plans work differently in different countries, so do some research if you're already preparing or saving enough for your retirement. And oftentimes they are also tax advantage, so that is a nice bonus because you can save some cost. When you checked all those boxes from financial security, congratulations. That is already a very important step in personal finance. And maybe you don't want to stop at this level. There are 2 other levels of wealth that you can strive for. If you're interested, I talk about them in this video. Either way, thank you for watching. Have a great day and bye-bye.